The United States is being bombarded by continuous attacks from without and from within on our identity and independence as a nation, on our cultural diversity and heritage, on our economic prosperity and social stability, on our very ability to survive politically and economically. Today I want to begin the discussion of why the militia of the several states is the answer to the question, how do we get our country back? I am Jeff Robertson, a practicing attorney with over 35 years of courtroom experience and a retired Marine officer of 27 years service, active in reserve. What are some examples of the types of attacks to which we are regularly being subjected? Whether or not we believe that they are a true threat to the U.S., international terrorists, home and foreign grown, are a force that cannot be ignored. Too often they provide the justification for the general government to enact draconian laws against its own people, while threatening a never-ending war on terror, using emergency powers that get stretched to the limits of credibility. As we have seen with the recent exploitation by governments around the world of a strain of virus with questionable origins, public health can be a further justification for the general government to crack down on its own citizens, restricting their ability to retain their social structure, forbidding them from providing for their families unless their work is deemed necessary by that same government, and creating unnecessary fear among its population. Most of the problems with the invasion of illegal aliens would go away without the support of domestic officials, foreign governments, and non-governmental organizations. They can overload local economies, influence local and national elections, and completely transform long-standing local and regional cultures. The illegal drug trade has long been used to corrupt public officials and law enforcement. Many of those involved in the trade are protected or supported by those in office. How many of our public officials at the local, state, and national levels misuse the law to their own benefit, are exempt from any consequences of their lawlessness, or change the laws to benefit themselves at the expense of the taxpayers? Isn't it about time we stop being the global policeman, fighting wars for other countries and special interests, including the military-industrial complex, at such a high cost in lives and money? Is it any wonder we are despised by so much of the world? How and when will we regain our sovereignty under the Declaration of Independence, when we are part of so many organizations like the United Nations and other non-governmental organizations whose sole purpose is to undermine our independence and national identity, to establish a new world order that ridicules and minimizes the idea of local rule and national independence? We have a financial system based on monetized debt, connected to a fractional reserve banking system that on its face is the same as counterfeiting our money, giving control of the economy to those in power rather than an economy based on individual transactions. And then we have a general government that exploits that system with unimaginable financial burdens that cannot be repaid, binding us with more and more debt. This list is just the tip of the iceberg. Any one of these could cause a societal collapse. How close were we in 2008 to a monetary collapse? Consider Germany in the years just following World War I. It was a nation well developed socially, culturally, and economically, and yet its banking system collapsed, resulting in hyperinflation. The stage was then set for a savior to appear, and the rest becomes history. What would happen in the United States if the monetary system collapsed? What would happen to the rest of the world if the dollar collapsed? The interesting thing is that none of the attacks to which I have referred are isolated events. They all have the same special interests behind them. Many of the same players are on the boards of several of the different non-governmental organizations or are special advisors to officials in the several governments involved. There is so much overlap and so many revolving doors among governments, foundations, lobbying organizations, professional associations, and the like, that it is almost impossible to determine who is pulling the strings. We cannot rely on the elected officials to come up with a plan to defend against these threats when too many of them are part of the problem. Ultimately, all of the problems are the same, and they must be addressed together. We need to get a good handle on the nature of the problem before the solution will make any sense. What has been the response of local, state, and national officials to the constant attacks on the U.S.? Not surprisingly, the response has been to address none of the dangers actually threatening us, because those dangers are internal, not external. The officials attempt to direct our attention abroad to international terrorists or to the experts spouting a national health emergency. And their solution to all the problems? Well, we'll wage a war on fill in the blank. For the purposes of discussion, I'm going to focus on the war on terror. But make no mistake, the arguments apply to any war not declared by Congress, whether it is the war on drugs or the war on poverty. In the next several videos, we will go more deeply into the war on terror, its practical and constitutional problems, and the long-term effects on our liberty. The videos are in part based on the excellent research done by Harvard Law graduate Edwin Vieira Jr., as reported in his seminal book, Constitutional Homeland Security. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please push the subscribe button below and share this video with others who are concerned with how to constitutionally take our country back. If you would like to receive notices of when upcoming videos are released, please press the bell and you will be among the first to get my new videos. Thank you for watching.